Hello, I'm Claudine and welcome to Module 4, where we will discuss the conduct of sufficiency determination stage as part of the procedures and requirements of the Mergers and Acquisitions Office, or the MAO. This is our last module for this series. If you missed our previous modules or would like to learn about requesting pre-notification consultations, filling out the notification form, and submitting the notification form, you may access the videos from our links available in the description down below. You may also access them from the PCC website. When you have filed your notification forms, the next step is for the MAO to ensure that the notification forms submitted by the merger parties are sufficient to begin the merger review proper. Let me familiarize you with this process. Upon confirming that the notification form complies with the formal requirements, the MAO evaluates the sufficiency of the forms and appendices within 15 calendar days. During this stage, the MAO checks if the notification form and its appendices are complete. If the notification forms and the attachments submitted by all parties are found to be sufficient, the MAO will issue an order of payment within the 15-day period. If the MAO finds that the notification form or its appendices are incomplete, or if further clarification is required on the information submitted by the parties, the MAO will issue a notice of deficiency. The notifying party is given 15 calendar days from the receipt of the notice of deficiency to submit its response. Upon receipt of the response to the notice of deficiency, the MAO will resume its evaluation of the notification form with the additional documents within the remaining balance of the 15-day sufficiency period. If the MAO finds that the response fully addresses all concerns raised in the notice of deficiency, an order of payment will be sent to the notifying parties. This signifies that the notification form, its appendices, and all information submitted by the parties are sufficient to enable the MAO to conduct the merger review. Otherwise, a notice of return will be issued by the MAO. To illustrate the timeline, here's an example. Companies A and B submitted their notification forms on January 3, 2022, Monday. Assuming that the formal requirements have been fully complied with, the sufficiency determination stage will start on January 4, 2022, Tuesday. Based on the rules, the MAO has 15 calendar days or until January 18, 2022 to evaluate the sufficiency of the notification forms and appendices. Since we're talking calendar days, we include weekends and holidays in the computation of the timeline. Within the said period, the MAO either issues a notice of deficiency if the form and its appendices are incomplete, or an order of payment if the form and its appendices are complete. Let's say that on January 10, 2022, on the 7th day of the 15-day sufficiency period, the MAO issued a notice of deficiency to clarify some information found on the parties' notification forms. The parties are then given 15 calendar days or until January 25, 2022 to submit their responses. Assuming the parties maximize their allowable period and submit their responses on January 25, 2022, the MAO will then review and decide on the sufficiency of the form and the responses of the parties within the remaining balance of the 15-day sufficiency period. In this case, since the MAO issued the notice of deficiency on the 7th day, the MAO has the remaining 8 calendar days or until February 2, 2022 to evaluate the form. If the responses are deemed to be sufficient, the MAO will issue an order of payment. If the parties still fail or refuse to submit all the documents found lacking in the initial submission, or do not address the clarifications sought by the MAO, or fail to submit their responses within the 15-day period, the MAO will return the notification form without prejudice to a subsequent refiling. the MAU will issue a notice of return stating the grounds for the return and providing instruction to the parties on how to withdraw the files submitted to the PCC. The protocol for the withdrawal of the files ensures the security and confidentiality of said documents. To claim a returned notification form, the party, in case of a natural person or authorized representative indicated in the notification form, in other cases must personally receive the notification form and related documents from the Records Office of the PCC. Should the documents be claimed by a person other than the notifying party or the authorized representative, the claimant must submit an original copy of his proof of authority together with a photocopy of a government-issued ID, the original copy of which must likewise be presented for verification to the MAU representative.
What can MAU request in its notice of deficiency?
The accuracy and efficiency of the merger review process are largely dependent on the quality and completeness of information submitted to the MAU. Notifying parties must therefore ensure that the notification forms and the attachments submitted are complete to prevent any delays in the process. The notice of deficiency basically itemizes the documents or information not provided by the party, or raises points pertaining to the submitted information for further clarification. I'd like to remind you that the failure of parties to submit the documents or information required by the notification form or those requested by MAU through a notice of deficiency within 15 calendar days is a ground for the return of the notification forms filed by both parties. Submission of incorrect or misleading information is also a ground for the return of the notification forms to both parties. The parties will be given an opportunity to clarify and rectify incorrect or misleading information in a notice of deficiency. In addition, parties who submit incorrect or misleading information will also be penalized administratively. If a decision is based on incomplete, incorrect, or misleading information, the Commission may review the decision and have the decision vacated.
What are the other grounds for return of the notification form?
The notification form and its appendices may also be returned to the parties for the following reasons. First, when the PCC finds that any information or document required under the form, which is relevant or material to the PCC's review, has been withheld from the PCC. Second, when one or more merger parties fail to provide the deficient information required by the PCC in its notice of deficiency or request for information. Third, when the parties incorrectly designate any of the merger's parties' ultimate parent entity. This may be corrected by the parties after they have made a preliminary determination of the correct ultimate parent entity. Fourth, when the parties fail to pay the filing fees within the period prescribed. Please note that if a notification form is returned to the parties, it will be treated as if no notification was ever made to the Commission. The merger parties may refile their corrected and complete forms at any time prior to any acts of consummation of their merger.
What are the effects of refiling the notification form or filing of a new notification form?
The periods for evaluation are reset. So, the proposed merger or acquisition will again have to go through the 15-day sufficiency determination stage, 30-day Phase 1 review, and 60-day Phase 2 review. Moreover, filing fees must be paid anew. If the notification forms and the attachments are deemed sufficient, an order of payment will be issued via email. The filing fees must be paid by the merger parties within 10 calendar days from receipt of an order of payment. Remember that payment of the filing fee is part of the requirements of completing a notification. The Commission shall be deemed to have been notified only after the parties have paid the filing fee. Here's the schedule of fees for a merger notification. For notification filing and Phase 1 review, parties must need to pay 250,000 pesos. For notification filing under expedited review, parties need to pay 150,000 pesos. For transactions that move to Phase 2 review, the parties need to pay 1% of the value of the transaction, which shall not be less than 1 million pesos nor exceed 5 million pesos. Please take note that filing fees must be paid in full and paid by manager's check payable to the Philippine Competition Commission. You may coordinate with the MAU on other methods of payment that may become available in the future.
Who should pay the filing fees?
The fees are usually paid by the acquiring entity, but the parties can agree on who pays the filing fees. The parties may specify to whom the official receipt shall be issued.
When should parties pay the filing fees?
Filing fees must be paid by the parties within 10 calendar days from its receipt of an order of payment for the notification fee or the Phase 2 review fee, as the case may be. For notifications filed under expedited merger review, the fees must be paid upon the determination by MAU that the forms of all notifying parties are compliant with the rules on expedited merger review.
What happens if we fail to pay the filing fee within the period?
Non-payment of the filing fees is a ground for the return of the notification forms and other submission of parties. The Commission shall be deemed to have been notified of the proposed transaction only when the filing fee has been paid. The MAU will then issue a notice of sufficiency to the notifying parties. The first day of Phase 1 review will commence on the next business day following the payment of the Phase 1 review filing fee. We hope we have clarified the conduct of sufficiency determination stage, as this is the initial step before the proposed transaction undergoes Phase 1 or eventually Phase 2 review. If you wish to learn more about the adjustments made by the MAU to its processes due to the COVID-19 pandemic, please continue watching this video. The PCC issued the interim guidelines during periods of community quarantine last May 25, 2021 to facilitate compliance with PCC rules during the COVID-19 pandemic. The interim guidelines will continue to apply during periods of community quarantine without prejudice to additional protocols and procedures that the Commission may implement. Keep in mind that the additional steps to be discussed can further change or be repealed. Please monitor announcements and bulletins on the PCC website or coordinate with MAU staff for updates. During the applicability of the interim guidelines in periods of community quarantine, the MAU shall commence sufficiency determination stage upon a determination that A. All notifying parties have submitted electronic copies of their respective notification forms, together with all appendices and annexes, through the PCC SharePoint facility in accordance with Section 4.2 and 4.3 of the interim guidelines. And B. The formal requirements under Section 5.3 of the PCC Rules on Merger Procedures, with the exemption of Section 5.3.1 or the submission of a USB, were fully complied with by all notifying parties. Remember that the submission of hard copies is also a formal requirement. Failure of parties to submit the documents or information requested by MAU through a notice of deficiency within 15 calendar days shall be a ground to return the notification forms filed by both parties. However, under the interim guidelines, notifying parties are allowed to request an extension of the period to cure the deficiencies identified by the MAU. The request must be signed by a party's authorized signatory and may be filed via email no later than 2 business days prior to the lapse of the deadline for submission. During GCQ, MGCQ, or the equivalent community quarantine level, a request for extension of time to submit information required by the notice of deficiency may be granted only once for each transacting party and in no case exceeding 7 calendar days, subject to the MAU's approval. Likewise, during GCQ, MGCQ, or the equivalent community quarantine level, notifying parties who are unable to pay the fees for notification filing and Phase 1 review within 10 days from its receipt of an order of payment may also request for an extension. The request for an extension of the period to pay must be signed by their authorized signatory prior to the lapse of the deadline for payment. Should a temporary closure intervene during the period to pay the fees for notification filing and Phase 1 review or Phase 2 review, the parties may pay the filing fees within the remaining balance of the period for payment from the lifting of the temporary closure. It should be noted that the Commission, when warranted, can suspend some of its operations in compliance with government protocols. For instance, the commencement of Phase 1 merger review was suspended during ECQ and MECQ as we do not accept hard copies of submissions during those periods. Please coordinate with the MAU on applicable restrictions and protocols during times of emergency. We hope this clarifies the adjusted conduct of sufficiency determination stage under our interim guidelines. This concludes our 4-part series on the procedures of mergers and acquisitions in the PCC. Remember, notifying parties should direct all their communications and submissions to the MAU with address at 25th floor, Vertis North, Corporate Center 1, North Avenue, Quezon City, 1105. At PCC, we serve to ensure healthy competition among businesses for the consumer's benefit. Thank you and mabuhay!